To be here on my dad's birthday. So it's great to be together. And I just want to say a special thanks to Salem Bible Church, because you are a church that has really served and ministered to my mom and dad, Paul and Carla. And you've been a church that has really helped out Beth and myself. And you've prayed for us. That I know for a fact. And even the way Pastor Ben and Pastor Doug refer to our times in Africa, and they know where we were, they know what we did. You can tell that they're invested in that. And so I just really want to say a heartfelt thank you to all of you who participate in the life of the church here, and supporting and praying for your missionaries. I just really deeply am grateful for that on behalf of all the missionaries that you do serve. So today's just a little update is more than anything just a kind of I don't mean to speak in terms of like maybe the financial world that we live in, but you are investors. You're investing in eternity. You're investing in eternity through the avenue of not the stock market, not bonds, but through the avenue of supporting and sending missionaries around the world. And so what I want you to do is just think of this short little time frame as just a report on your investment. A report on this is what you are investing in eternity, supporting Steve and Beth Galt, and this is what we do. I think most of you already know that we are with Baptist Missions, and we supervise or oversee, care for, coach the missionaries who come and who go and serve on the African continent and the European continent. So we have about 24 countries that we're responsible for. I think the numbers are somewhere around 105 or 6, just the missionaries. If you add in all their kids, if you add in all those who have already retired and are back home, like my mom and dad, if you add up all those, it's close to 300. And we try to make a priority of those who are active in Africa and in Europe, but we also really try to engage younger people here in the U.S. Who are considering missions, and all the way up to the retirees. And as I've said to you, I think maybe even last year, one of the joys that we have is to visit and just show an interest in those who are retired. They've come back. Many of them sometimes feel a little bit out of place. They're not sure where, this whole new lifestyle is. And so, and some honestly it's hard because they feel like they've been, even though they haven't, sometimes they feel like they've been kind of put up on a shelf and their time is over. They've had to leave the only thing they've known for the last 20, 30, 40 years. And so if Beth and I can get an opportunity to swing by one of their homes or somewhere where they're at now here in the U.S. and just pay them a visit, we find that to be very rewarding and very encouraging to the retired missionaries. So without any further ado or explanation, I guess what's on here is here. So if I just click the next slide, it should go, right? Okay. So you see here just a brief update on some of the flights that I have taken this year. It's actually been a little bit less travel this year than last year. I only had 67 flights, 47 domestic, 20 international, 12 long haul. I flew about 78,000 miles this year, which is 3.5 times around the earth. Yeah. So it's pretty special. What I find interesting on the one on the dark over there is that I spent 8 days and 18 hours flying. That's just flying. So it's good to be on the ground. It's good to be on the ground. So our year of 2025 started out with a trip back to Cameroon. That, as you know, is where we spent the last 10 years of our ministry. Planted the church there, the Église Baptiste de la Grâce, which is a Grace Baptist church. And just really important to go back and touch base with our people and our missionaries that are there. Okay, let's see. There we go. Oh, it's jumping ahead on me here. Okay. So this guy in the middle is Brian Mack, and he and his wife were a couple that we recruited to join us in Cameroon, and they have been over there for the last, probably almost 10 years now, doing a great job of leadership development. They aren't actually starting a new church, but they are working with the church that we started and discipling, and they've started a printing press ministry where they are able to now take books that have been translated into French and then print them at a very low cost right there in Cameroon and then distribute them to leaders and churches, and it's been just a phenomenal ministry that we thank God for. I was able to visit with them, and the guy that's on the right-hand side there to Brian's right, his name is Brain. Yeah, it's actually Brain is his name. He is a English-speaking Cameroonian, and his name is Brain, but he's a great guy doing a faithful ministry over there. The joy that I had is unspeakable when I got to go back to the church that we planted and to see all the people in the church, to see how the facilities have been well taken care of, pastor well taken care of, and the man there that I'm with is my translator. And so the church has gone to bilingual services. So we do everything in French and in English. So a lot of times, depending on the audience, and sometimes I'll preach in French and they'll translate it into English or vice versa. And so this is one of our elders of our church there, very faithful man, and just such a joy to be back in that church and to see their faithfulness. It doesn't seem to be working. Okay. And these are just Brian, Heather, the missionaries in Cameroon, with a couple that was another elder in our church, very near and dear to our hearts. So I get back from Cameroon, and 95 degrees, and I land here, and I go right up to New Brunswick, Canada. And this was a very, very interesting and joyful time of celebration for this couple and their 4 kids that you see there. Asked me to come up and teach, preach, and pray for them as they were commissioned by their church to go to Chad, Africa. And they are there now in Chad, Africa, doing a great job of the ministry. But so just another aspect of the ministry that we enjoy as we work with our missionaries. So coming back from that trip, this is the plane that I flew on. Obviously up there in Canada, they even get way more colder than we do here. So it was very cold. And then in February, Beth and I both were able to travel to Cyprus, the island of Cyprus. And the reason we went to Cyprus was to investigate a conference center that we could negotiate a price with for our PAWS conference. A PAWS conference is this refreshment conference for all of our missionaries in Africa and Europe, where we bring them together once every 3 years, and Beth and I raise the money to pay for all of their room and board, and all they have to do is just get there. And so we were able to go there and look at several places that we found really pretty good prices, and that's why it would draw us to Cyprus, as well as the fact that it's a beautiful island in the Mediterranean and has very gorgeous weather year-round. And so this couple here, their names are Daniel and Heather. And I asked Daniel and Heather probably 2-3 years ago to come alongside of Beth and me as our European coordinators. So he would serve underneath us, helping the missionaries in Europe. He's a European MK, he grew up in Holland, and now he's a missionary in Holland. So they are a wonderful couple. They joined us in Cyprus. We went through the whole facilities there. We signed a contract and negotiated that. And so now we have been raising funds. Registration has been opened and closed. We have a whole I think we have close to 100 people, 100 adults coming, and almost 40 MKs, children coming. We have a whole team from the U.S. that's coming to speak and to take care of the kids, and it's going to be a wonderful time. It's in February 23rd through 27th of this coming year. So we would appreciate your prayers about that. That's just Beth and I coming back, and you can see I look probably a little more tired than she does, but she's putting on a brave face there. Those are some long haul flights that are not for the faint of heart. When we got back from there in March, we were down in Florida, and this was more of a donor kind of relational trip. So we have about 32 churches that support us, and about maybe a handful or so of individual donors who give to us every single month. And so we always like to kind of visit them and give them a report like we're doing to you, and if it's a couple, take them out for dinner or something and just thank them. And so while we were down in Florida, we visited a couple churches. We were able to spend some time with a couple couples that are near and dear to our heart. There we go. Okay, so it's kind of jumping ahead 2 at a time. Yeah, this couple's been supporting us for my mom and dad know them pretty well. Ron and Paula Filer, and then Jim and Hope Smith, good friends of ours down there in Florida. And we got back from that, and we learned that a retired missionary that I had gotten to know really well and worked closely with in Zambia had passed away. And so they asked me to come out to California to speak at his memorial service, which I did. His name was Dr. Gary Barker. He was a phenomenal guy, pastored a pretty large church in California back in the day, and had a missionary come through and spoke about Zambia. And as Gary was prone to do, kind of somewhat of a rash, bold decision maker, just made the decision, I'm going to resign from my church and I'm going to Zambia as a missionary. And he did in his 50s, and raised support and got out there and started a church and started a Bible college, and man, it was amazing what he did. And then he came back to the States, and it was a funny thing. He just was starting to get a little, older and sicker, but not anything life-threatening. He just told his daughter one day, he said, I think the Lord's gonna call me home soon. He said, I think maybe it'd be good to get, all the kids and grandkids around. And within 1 week, he was gone. 1 week, he was gone. And so that was a really fun, interesting time there with that family. Then from there, I was off to Arizona. And Arizona, I got to speak, and my mom and dad know this guy too. Yep. He was visited them down in Trinidad and Tobago. So he's a dean at this Bible college that I went to visit. The name of the Bible college is International Baptist College in Phoenix, Arizona. And they have a small student body of maybe only 40, 50 kids, but very, very interested in missions and ministry. So I was able to go there and just mingle with the kids and talk to them and do a class. And so these are all just kind of giving you a sampling idea of the different ministries that we get to be a part of. From there, I flew to Germany, And I was asked to speak at the annual missionary conference of all the French missionaries and all the German missionaries. So all the missionaries from Germany and France all get together every year, and they do their business each year, annual business meeting, but they also have a time of just refreshment and preaching. So they asked Daniel, my European coordinator, and myself to come, and we spoke for, I think it was 4 or 5 days at that conference. Had a really special time with them, got to meet some of their kids that I hadn't met yet, got to take them out on a tour. Here's a few couples, a couple couples from Germany, a couple couples from France, and I found that the more time I can spend with them and their kids and get to know them and encourage them, the more room I have to enter into their lives and to be a coach and an encouragement. And of course, always have to take time for these folks here, if I can get the thing to move. Wow, I'm being a little stubborn here. Okay, yeah, well, I think you know them. Paul and Carla. Yeah, came down and went to the Bon Thai together. We really like that restaurant, so we give them our. So I try to do that from time to time, get down here and see Mom and Dad. But also, from that point, I think it was in June, I was off to Ghana. This is called a tuk-tuk, and they come from India, and that was my taxi. So I landed in this airport, and that was my taxi. I jumped in that, and I went to the missionary station, and we used to have lots of missionaries on this big missionary station with multiple houses, and today there is not one single missionary left on that station. There is one missionary couple in that city, but they have their own home and they live there. But Timothy and Ivy Seydu are the missionaries there. This is the church that they've started, and he asked me to come and preach at their 25th, I think it was, 25th anniversary service, and they had a Bible college graduation. They had 5 graduates, and so it was an immense privilege to be able to preach at the church for that anniversary, and then preach at the commencement exercise and the graduation. And boy, what a dynamic work. Dynamic work by Timothy and Ivy Seydu. I'll show you a picture of them here. That's Timothy to my right with his wife Ivy. She's actually from Hong Kong. Long story, really short, is that Timothy's wife Janet, who was a Ghanaian, as he is, they were here in the States visiting a few churches, and she had a massive brain bleed and just died, just like that, like in her mid-30s. And so Timothy met Ivy, who was also a single missionary working in Ghana, and they got married, and they are now doing a phenomenal work. Those are a couple of the elders or church leaders in his church. And another thing I get to do, as I mentioned, is visit retired missionaries. And Joe and Jenny Misfit are missionaries who spent years in Malta and are now retired. And just really faithful, salt-of-the-earth missionaries that I was able to visit on a trip to Michigan, where I also got to visit the Hawks, Jonathan and Clorinda and their 4 boys. They are missionaries in Zambia. And so my philosophy is I can only get to Zambia and that part of the world maybe once every 4 to 5 years. So while my missionaries are on furlough and they're in Michigan or Ohio or New York or wherever, I try to make every effort to swing by them and visit them in their home there and just see how they're doing on furlough. Furloughs can be great, but they can also be exhausting. They can be traumatic for the kids, ripping them out of school and bringing them here, and they're every weekend in a different church, and that can be tough. And so just going along and just telling the kids, guys, I know what you're going through. I went through that when I was a kid, you know, and look how I turned out. And they go, that's the problem, Steve. We know. Look how you turned out. You know, and it's okay. I get you. But yeah, it's a great thing. This couple here is they're back in Zambia now, doing a great work. Then the month of July is pretty much just absolute, just concentrated time at the home office in Cleveland, Ohio, where we bring in all the new candidates. They go through a week of training. Then we have a whole week of training for what we call the launch seminar, which is a time for those who have been out raising support and they get to about 70% of their support. We bring them all back to the mission and we teach them for a whole other week on all kinds of things such as cultural transitions, adaptation to culture, learning how to learn a language, how to grieve the losses and say goodbye properly, how to help your kids in the transitions. All those kinds of things are things that we teach them when we bring them back. These two ladies here, younger ladies that you see there, are two new candidates for our part of the world. One's going to Slovakia, one's going to Holland. And with us are Jeff and Sherry Newman, who are the in-house, we would call them in-house member care / biblical counselors that come alongside of missionaries and actually can help counsel them when they need it. Not if they need it, but when they need it. All right, so I'll move on. We had just a really good show because during that 3-week period, we also have Family Conference, which brings in missionaries from all over the world to Cleveland, Ohio for a week-long conference of all the missionaries. And we have just some pictures here of some of our missionaries. This couple serve in Italy. And I have to tell you this real quick story. So I was flying from Cleveland to Detroit to grab a plane to go somewhere else. I can't even remember where it was now. It had to have been when I had a missions conference, I think, coming up next, yeah. So I get to the Detroit airport, and when I'm getting ready to get off the plane, you know how they have the jet bridge, right? So I step off the plane into the jet bridge, and I notice that there's a lady standing right here with a big laptop like this, pointing it like this, and it has Steve Galt written on there. And I'm like, hey, that's me. She goes, yeah, I know. She says, follow me. So instead of me going down the jet bridge, she took me down the steps outside in the airport area, and she put me in this Delta Porsche. This is a red Porsche. She put me in the Porsche, and she took me right to my next gate. So I didn't have to go through any gate. She took me right to my next gate. She gave me this little bag of all these little goodies and presents in there. And she said, by the way, she said, we just want you to know that you have just flown your 1,000,000th mile with Delta. 1,000,000 miles. And we want to just honor you today by giving you this special treatment. So it was fun. It was pretty cool. And then that was the conference that I was flying to right here. I was invited to come to this church to be the keynote speaker for a missions conference. And it was so much fun because this church was a church of just all kinds of different nationalities. I mean, there were Cameroonians, there were Cambodians, there were Mexicans, there were Filipinos. I mean, it was just such a blast to meet with all of them. And the other missionary speaker, by the way, was the man on the right there. I'm trying to think of his name. Anyway, he's the guy that my mom and dad know who visited them in Tobago. But it was fun because these people here are Cameroonians, and I actually got invited to a Cameroonian's home that Sunday after lunch, and they put on this massive Cameroonian food spread for me. Oh my goodness, it was so good. And so much fun. We talked French and laughed and just had a great time with my Cameroonian friends. Then, after that, I was off to France and Romania, and Beth was planning on coming to this trip with me. But then everything kind of fell through right about that time with her mom. Getting her mom out of her home into assisted living. That's kind of been the story of 2025, is our parents and moving from independent living into assisted living and helping them transition through that. And so Beth is pretty much the only one. She has two brothers. One who is pretty much a, they call him, I guess they say functional drunks, but he's pretty much a dysfunctional drunk. And without the Lord, very hostile to things, spiritual things. And then our other brother's down in Alabama, and he's kind of, I call him the MIA, missing in action kind of brother. So pretty much everything is pretty much on Beth. And so we had to cancel her whole trip, but I was still able to go. These are our missionaries in France. It was the first time I had ever been able to visit them. They're in their first term, and they're starting a brand new church there. And these are just some of the people in their church that we had lunch with after we had church in their apartment. So they have a tiny little apartment. Their living room is probably about the couch to right about here, about that big. And I think we had 19 or 20 people in that little living room. And the church is they just were able to rent a new facility, so they're moving into that. And I mean, it's a good growing church. And France is hard soil. So God is really blessing their work there. Then I went on to Romania, and this is a couple that we have serving in Romania, and they work 100% with what we call the Roma people. Maybe some of you would know them as gypsies, but gypsies is kind of a derogatory word, so we don't really use that term too much. But they are very nomadic people. They come from, their background is, their heritage is actually from India. They come from India. But they are a hard, difficult people. They are known for being thieves, and they're known for taking advantage of people in situations. But this couple here, boy, have they been faithful and stuck to the stuff, and they have really had a hard but slowly a fruitful ministry as they disciple and really try to just do that one-on-one, slow, hard work of ministry. I got back here to the States and was able to meet up with, again, this is Brian, who's in Cameroon. He and his wife, Heather, they happened to come through Cleveland, and I got to take them out for lunch, and we just had a good time reminiscing, talking about missionary work, and just those are the things that I think build the trust and build the camaraderie with missionaries, is when you can spend time with them, just enjoy fellowship, and let them see us as not a superior person, not the boss. Some of them like to joke with me and say, "Oh, the boss is here." No, I don't really like to be called the boss. I'm really kind of your colleague, and I really like to see us, kind of get to know each other on the same level, because we're all servants for Jesus Christ, and we're just serving in different roles and capacities. So this was a really fun, enjoyable, just good time. End of October, end of September, I think it was end of September, we finally got to take a little time off, and we were able to go down to North Carolina, and unfortunately not all of our kids were able to come, but Ben in the white sweatshirt and his wife Alex and their 5 were all able to come. Spent a whole week down there, and as you can see, it was beautiful. We were right on the ocean, and it was a good time of just kind of, just letting down a little bit and decompressing and kind of, like I'm better at this than Beth is because I'm a guy probably, but compartmentalizing. I'm a little bit better at compartmentalizing. So I was able to take everything and just put it in a different compartment, and I was able to just like get into the beach compartment and just really enjoy the beach and my kids. And unfortunately, while we were down there, Ben and I, who love to body surf, which means you don't surf with a board, you surf with your body, right? And we love to do that. But him and I, we caught this amazing wave that shot us into the beach, onto the sand, grated our stomachs all up. But he ended up somehow coming over and rolling on top of me and wrenched my knee, my bad knee that's going to need a knee replacement here soon. So that was like the second or third day. So the rest of the time I was done. I sat on the ocean and just watched them play in the water. But it was a great time. And this year was special because my wife turned the big 6-0. And the other part of the family, Alyssa and her husband Austin and their 3 kids, and Ben and Alex, all came to North Ridgeville to celebrate the 60th birthday. Beth has never had trouble with her age. She doesn't care. People ask her how old she is. 58, 59. But 60, she told me, she said, that one kind of hit me. Like, wow, I'm 60. But we thank God for the overall good health and strength that he's blessed her with. And she's loved by her kids and grandkids. So we praise the Lord for that. I was also able to go up to New York in November, I think it was, maybe October. I can't even keep track of the time anymore, but October I think it was. I spoke at one of our supporting churches in Hartwick, New York, which is right there. You can see that little sign. You probably can't read it, but this is a church that was started like way, way back. Can you read that? No? Okay. Like way back in the early 1900s, and it's still going, still a faithful, fundamental Baptist church. I didn't speak, I shouldn't say I spoke. I represented Baptist Missions at a gathering of all of the New York area evangelical Bible Baptist churches. And so these people come together from all over New York and even into some Pennsylvania. And so I was there with my table and my BMM gear, just representing BMM, talking to people about what BMM does, what we offer, that kind of thing. I don't normally do that as much, but we've been without 2 what we call mobilizers or road people. And so I try to fill in some of the holes and the gaps when I can. Since that time, we've hired 2 new road guys and their wives who will be doing that kind of ministry more full time. Thanksgiving, we were able to come down and spend time with Mom and Dad. We brought Beth's mom, and we were all able to have a good dinner together and at Bob Evans, believe it or not, and have a little time together at their house. It was great. And I want to introduce you to our newest grandson, little Gabriel James. And we just got to see him a couple weeks ago. And this is Brandon and his wife Becca and little Gabriel. And I want to thank you for praying, because Brandon is truly a work of God's grace. Don't know how much you all know, but I'll just give you the real short version. Brandon came home from Africa, was really lost and didn't know what to do. Went to a couple years of Bible college at Appalachian Bible College. Didn't really like it, didn't fit. Came out of there, went up to Michigan to be with his sister, got some jobs and here and there, didn't like them, quit his jobs, and was just lost. And ended up meeting a girl at Walmart, ended up starting to live with her, and but then they decided that they probably should get married, so they got married. And then Becca got saved. She was not saved. Becca got saved and wrote us told us how she got saved, wrote us her testimony, which was just an absolute miracle how God did this work. And this is you have to understand, this was a lady who grew up in a very broken, dysfunctional home, was a woman's lib through and through, and the way that God has transformed her life has just been nothing short of miraculous. And she started saying to Brandon, we probably should go to a church. We should visit a church. And Brandon was like, oh, yeah, whatever. So they started going to a church. And it was a church just close to their house there in Michigan. And while they were going there, I'm not sure if I shared this last year or not, but I can't remember. If I don't remember, you might not remember either. But so they started going to this church. A few weeks into this visiting of this church, the men were going to have a men's retreat, which was like a 3-day off-site men's retreat. And they were like, Brandon, come on, you need to go. Brandon's like, nah, I don't want to go. I don't want to go. Well, they talked him into it, and he went. And while he was there at this men's retreat, God opened the heart, the mind, everything. And I'm not sure, and he's not even sure, if his true conversion was when he was 7 years old and this was just like, coming back, or whether this was a real, true conversion experience. But he told me, he said, Dad, he said, I honestly can't tell you. He said, but I can tell you this. He said, whereas before God was always kind of like mom and dad's God, your God, he is now mine. He is now mine. And I'm just going to say praise to the Lord. His life has also been dramatically transformed. I mean, if you ask him now, Brandon, what can I get you for your Christmas present? Oh, Dad, I want this newest, huge, monstrous study guide from Strong's Concordance, or, this theology book. He's going out and buying all these massive, Wayne Grudem theology books. And, he's just absorbing it. And God has done such a work in their hearts and lives, and they are faithful in a really good expositional preaching church now. And Brandon has gotten through all of the initial stages, and he's now a journeyman electrical apprentice. He's going to be becoming a journeyman electrician. And it's just amazing how God has, the work that he's done in their lives. So I say that to thank you for praying and to give glory to God. And one last thing that I would love for you to pray for is this upcoming Pause 26 in February. This is the biggest return on investment that I do as an administrator. This is the biggest bang for the buck right here. Beth and I put so much time and work and effort and prayer and planning into this conference, because this conference is, I believe, a conference that can help missionaries with longevity stick to it in the ministry. I had a missionary 3 years ago who came up to me the first day we were there at this conference 3 years ago. It was in Spain. And he said to me, he's a good friend of mine, so I know him well, but he said to me, Steve, he said, I almost didn't come. I'm so tired. I'm so worn out. I crawled onto that plane to get here. At the end of that week, after hearing 2, 4, 6, 8 messages from Jim Tillotson, some of you know, at the end of that week of just fellowship and laughter and prayer and good speaking, he came to me afterwards, and he just wrapped his arms around me, big guy, wrapped his arms around me, hugged me, and he said, remember how I said I barely got on that plane to come here? He said, this week has been so good. He said, I feel like I'm ready to fly away from here. I'm so encouraged. So it's a lot of planning. It's a lot of money. I think This conference is going to cost close to $50,000. But I've told many people, you can't put a price tag on what this does for missionaries. You can't. There are missionaries who have come to this who probably were on the verge of just like quitting. I'm done. And they've come to this and they've walked away ready to get back in the battle. Had one other missionary, an older gentleman, come to me at the end of this week, 3 years ago. He shook my hand and he said, Steve, he said, this has been the best week of my entire year. I said, thank you. So I just really want you to pray that this would continue to go forward in the planning, and that God would have his will and way. Satan doesn't want this to happen. Every time we do this, there's all kinds of things that, he tries to throw in our way. But just pray that, that will happen. So that's a quick recap of 2025, and this is the beginning of 2026 is the PAWS conference. So looking forward to that. Any questions? Yes, Valerie. Every 3 years. Yep, every 3 years. This will be our third one coming up. It's going to be in Cyprus, yeah. In Bafra, the name of the town is Bafra. It's called the Concord Luxury Resort. And here it is, listen to this. It's about a 30-minute drive from the town of Salamis, Acts chapter 13, where Paul and Barnabas landed in Salamis on the island of Cyprus. And one of the things we're going to do as a group is we're going to go and tour the ancient ruins of Salamis. Very, very exciting. Yeah, it's really cool. So Paul, if you remember, he landed in Salamis and he crossed the city or the island of, the island of Cyprus all the way to the other side when he got to Paphos. So if you're not remembering your biblical history, you can go back and read chapter 13 of Acts and it'll show it. Any other questions? Yes. About 100 adults and 40 kids. That's what we had in 2023, and it's very close to the same amount this time. Because we've had quite a few retire. So some new ones are coming from Africa this time.
What percentage of missionaries actually live there?
Oh boy, a good question, Patty. I would say 80 to 85%. Yep. Yeah, and the one reason a couple of them couldn't come was because their kids have exams that same exact week. And as hard as they tried to get their kids out of school to come, the Europeans are very strict when it comes to their exams. And they will like, okay, if you take your kid out, they'll fail the whole year. So, they can't do that. Valerie, did you have another question?
Yeah. Do you find that you're keeping most of the missionaries, or are there still some that are dropping out?
I would say that our retention has been very, very good for the last probably 6 years. So about 7, 8 years ago, just a couple of years after I came to this position, we had 2 or 3 couples drop out, which was very discouraging. And not all for bad reasons, but they did other things. But yeah, for the last several years, things have been really steady. Yep. Okay. Sorry, Mom. I guess I don't tell you as much as I should. Maybe I do tell you, you're forgetting. Okay, thank you.